Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Have attention, please. All quiet, please. Thank you. Go ahead, take your notes out. We're going to be finishing up notes. Then we're going to review for the test, which will be on Thursday. Okay? It'll be a fairly short test, so I don't know, we'll figure that out. And then after that, let's see, spring break. And after spring break, school again for like 10 and a half weeks. Okay? It'll be a little bit different after spring break. Mrs. Anderson was getting all the information out to the teachers as far as like the different schedule. I think I told you guys. Do you remember? When do you have this class? 4th. What day? It's a B day? Okay. So it'll be at whatever time that is. Yeah. Okay. And then we'll also have the rest of my 9th graders, the Green Day 9th graders, in here. And I guess, did they talk to you in first period about your pods? No? Do you know what a pod is? It's like where peas grow, right? So the pods, I think the idea there is, I don't know, do you guys have a lot of classes? What do you have first period? Spanish? So you guys are all in Spanish, okay. So like where you're sitting, and is it this group all in Spanish, or is it kind of mixed up? So there's like half. How many of you guys are at first period Spanish? So you pretty much all do. Okay, so the idea, I guess, behind the pods is you just kind of sit together, like who you sit next to, and then you kind of sit next to them in the next class and then the next class, although it obviously doesn't work out with all the classes because some of your classes are mixed up as far as like math and I think your electives, obviously. So you'll kind of be sitting there. So when you come in, we'll get it all sorted out, but you'll come and sit next to the people you normally sit next to. And I'll have more tables in here. I don't guarantee that you'll be able to spread out as much, but we'll see how that works. One of the things, though, that the administration really wants to focus in on is let's get through the rest of the year without having COVID spread, since there's going to be twice as many people in the building and in the classrooms. So they've wanted us as the teachers to really, really emphasize like the masks and wearing them properly. What part of your body is covered with a mask? Your mouth and your nose. I was giving a hard time to a senior because he's always got his nose sticking out. Keith, like his nose just kind of, I know, yeah. You don't have to cover your eyes. Yeah, so anyway, that part. And then sadly, because some of you guys are hang out here at lunch and so forth, or you finish your lunch in here, normally, you know, as a teacher, I'm like, whatever, eat when you need to eat, drink when you need to drink, don't be disruptive. But I think in order to keep masks on as much as possible, the school has pretty much made a rule throughout the school that you can't eat except, you know, before you come to school and at lunchtime. So just make sure that you eat all your lunch at lunch. And then sadly also, the classrooms are no longer available for people to hang out in at lunchtime. So yeah, that was not my call, but yeah, because I was actually curious how things would work out afterwards. Hopefully it'll be nice and warmish outside. They'll be putting some more, they're ordering more picnic tables. And then, of course, then the cafeteria. And it'll just be the high school students. Most of the seniors, you know, they go off, and some of the juniors go off campus. It will be a longer lunch, so that's nice, because we don't have to have you go like all those little 5-minute in-between class things and so forth. You just have 5 minutes in between first and second, 5 minutes in between third and fourth, and the rest of it is in your lunchtime, okay? So, is that pretty clear on how that works? I'm looking forward to being able to teach you guys up twice a week, as normal, but with more of the material and so forth that we're going to be able to do. Okay? Questions? You guys just get it, right? I just need to say it once and you get it. Right? So what day are you going to be in here the week after break? What days are B days? That's correct, yeah. So this will be your last class of the week. So there you go, and then off to your things. All right, let's finish out the notes, and then we'll get into the review for the test, which is going to be 35 points. It's actually going to go by pretty quick, and I'll have some other stuff for you on that day. Actually, one of the things you guys are going to be doing is I'm going to assign you another book. Oh my gosh, you're going to read this entire book in the last 10 weeks of the semester? No, I'll pull some chapters out of here. And frankly, the coverage, this is the book I use for the seniors as well as the juniors. The time period that we're covering is probably something like in there, those chapters. But it's got some good stuff. And I've already got the names in here, so I'll get that to you on Thursday. Okay? All right. Let's continue with China. We're looking at China today. We're going to be looking at Japan. China, China, China. There's China. The latest dynasty in China is a Chinese dynasty as opposed to a dynasty made up of, I don't know, outsiders like Mongols. The Ming dynasty. What's significant about the Ming dynasty? Do they bring anything back? What is one of the things they bring back for the upper class females? I'm looking at your feet. Yeah, the foot binding. Okay, you remember the foot binding part? Yeah. And, of course, they did the major explorations. Zheng He and his treasure ship, but they decided, let's not continue on with that. Let's focus our money on building defenses in the north and making sure the canals and all of the infrastructure is all well taken care of and so forth. Let's not do that. It's kind of like the modern analogy would be, I don't know, when I was younger, the United States of America put a lot of money into the space program. And we were the first ones to have somebody on the moon. That was a lot of money to figure out how to be the first one on the moon. Do we have that same kind of considerable investment in NASA today? No. In fact, if you look at it, like when you think of like space exploration, what or who is the person that says, oh yeah, we're going to go to Mars and we're going to colonize it and everything like that? Do you know? Who? Elon Musk, yeah, which is not part of the government. It's like a private guy sort of thing. And as it was with China, they're like, we don't need to put a lot of money into making lots of big ships and doing explorations and so forth, even though we can. We don't need to, so therefore, let's not do that. Let's let them come to us. Works out very well. In fact, write this down. When people were trading with China, at that time, China was able to really limit where the trading took place. There were, let me see if I can back it up here. Yeah, 2 port cities right in here. Outsiders would have liked to have been able to like move in along the rivers of China and set up shop all over the place and buy various different things. But the Chinese government was strong enough to say, no, look, you can trade here in and around Macau and Canton, not too far from where Hong Kong is located, showing the strength of the Chinese government. Later, when China gets weak and get pushed around and bullied by all the outside Westerners and so forth, they'll be able to set up shop all throughout China. Okay? Another interesting thing took place during this time period, and that is the arrival of some Jesuits from the West who came into China. They're obviously missionaries. They're interested in converting the population, and some small number will be converted to Catholicism among the Chinese. But mostly the Chinese government looks and they're like, we don't really like these guys. They're a foreigner. They're not into any of the Chinese religious systems and so forth. And we think that these guys are clueless, and maybe we're just going to go ahead and kick them out. Except, and this is an early indicator, that maybe the West, which the Chinese looked down upon, was learning and was starting to move forward. And I tell you what, you can write this down. Eventually, the West, in fact, even to a degree during this time period, will be more advanced than China, which is why later in Chinese history, China will get pushed around, beaten up by the West because of innovations in technology and science. And in fact, it's here. Chinese astronomy was always like at the cusp of, like being the best as far as like the astronomers were concerned. These Jesuits, also trained in astronomy, were able to out-predict, I want to say some eclipses and so forth. or some phenomenon going on in space, which the Chinese were like, whoa, these guys know what they're doing. And they were able to fix some imported clocks that were brought into China from the West. Western technology was already starting to surpass Chinese technology at that time. The Chinese had imported some really fine clocks that were manufactured in Europe. And these guys, some of them knew how to fix it. It's an early indication that one of those great early civilizations, China, was going to be surpassed. Okay? Although, let's throw this out to you. Who's been putting more money and effort into innovations in space lately? U.S. government, Chinese government? Chinese government. Can they afford that? Yeah, they've got a pretty big economy going on now. They're going to be a main player in your life because if you look at kind of like the trajectory of the United States, up, 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 we're kind of right here. We've kind of crusted and we're kind of, kind of coasting a little bit as far as like our level of achievement and prosperity and so forth. Chinese history is more one of these kinds of things, but they're on an upswing. And if they don't have this biggest economy in the world today, they will very soon, depending on how you measure it. When I was your age, they didn't have the biggest economy in the world, but they've been moving on very fast. Well, speaking of up and down, the Ming Dynasty goes into a period of decline. They were great, they were powerful, they were vigorous, and then give it another couple, 300 years, and they start to decline. They stop taking good care of their borders. They stop taking good care of their canals. Everything's good. I mean, how many of you guys want to work real hard to get somewhere in life and quit after about 5 years, 10 years, 15 years? It's kind of like, how many of you guys would like to retire wealthy at age 35 or 40? That'd be kind of nice. If you could, if you had enough money set aside. The danger is if you don't have that set aside, then you're going to be having some difficulty. Well, that's China's problem. If it becomes weak, it is vulnerable to attack. And here it comes. They're going to get attacked from the north, from Manchuria. Let me see if here we go. I knew I got a map on this one. From Manchuria. Today, that's actually referred to as northeast China. If you go back sort of like in traditional Chinese history, here's the Great Wall of China that the Ming Dynasty fixed up again just north of Beijing, the capital. And that's what they built to try and prevent the outsiders from coming charging in, like the Huns and the Mongols before that. Well, guess what? The Manchurians, or the Manchus, come charging through there, and they take control of China. Okay? So the last dynasty, sometimes referred to as the Qing Dynasty, is going to start 1644, and it'll go all the way up till, 1911. Starts with Nurhaci. Okay, so very dynamic. And this is going to be an outsider invasion. So who's going to be in charge of China? Not the Mongols, not the Chinese, the Manchurians. Whoops. The Manchurians from this area. And again, if you look at the modern map of China today, that is actually included in China. So, what are they going to establish? Well, they're going to be doing some pretty big things and important things and so forth, but eventually, as they enter into the 20th century, they also will go through a period of decline and be pushed around and taken over from the outside. Up and down and up and down, and China is up, continuing on up. Okay? China. Questions? Japan. Let's talk about Japan. Okay? The last ones of these is Japan, which, if you want to know about Japanese history, they're right off the coast of China. Very much influenced by China over the years. Some similarities, linguistics and heritage and so forth. And yet, just like Britain is part of Europe, but not pushed around by Europe because it's an island nation, so is also Japan an island nation. So very rarely are you going to have a period like in Asian history where the Chinese are able to come over. In fact, they aren't. They're never able to come over and take over Japan. Japan, write this down, they're going to have a history of tough resilience and fighting. Oh my gosh. They are tough, tough, tough fighters. And they know how to fight against each other. Through much of their history, they're fighting against each other. Here's a map. This is during the time of the 1500s. And you got all these various different warlords, daimyos, nobles with armies. They've got their samurai armies. And they're always warring with each other. And it's like, I mean, they're tough, 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 tough. Greek history. Ancient Greek history, familiar with ancient Greek history? A lot of Greek city-states always fighting against each other. I mean, really good fighters, but they're always fighting against each other until some outside power like Persia is a threat. And then the Greeks are like, oh, the heck with Persia. They come together and they fight off the Persians, and then they fight with each other again. Well, in Japanese history, there will be a time period where they ultimately will come together and unite. They will unite, for example, under a shogun, which is not an emperor, but it's sort of like a military ruler position. Okay? And the first shogun is going to be Nobunaga in 1573. Nobunaga is going to prevail in fights against many of these other groups, any of these other noble areas within Japan, and unite them. And it's actually ironic how that happens. What's that? Nobunaga. Okay? And as I pointed out, you can see it in the handout, he's going to get some help from the outsiders. The Japanese very much prize military fighting and skill and honor and swordsmanship and archery. But I don't know, if you were to choose weapons, we're going to get into a fight. There are two weapons you have to choose from on the table. One, a very finely made, ferocious, deadly sword, a samurai sword. Two, a Portuguese gun. You get to pick first. Wow, that was easy. Why are you going to pick the gun? That doesn't show skill in fighting. With a gun, what do you do with a gun? Point, click. Boom. If I choose the sword, and I know how to use a sword because I'm well trained in the martial arts of Japan, right? How many of you guys think that I'm going to win with my sword, good training and so forth? You don't think so? Nobody think I'm going to win? How many think she's going to win with her gun? Why? By the time I get there, I'm going to be like all over her with that sword. Oh, that doesn't seem very sporting, does it? No, in fact, write that down. The Portuguese were among the first to arrive in Japan. Okay, the Portuguese, they bop all over the place. They're going to southern part of Africa, they come over to India, they go over to China, they end up in Japan. They're the first foreigners to arrive in 1543, right? They want to trade. Some of them are going to want to spread Christianity and so forth because they've got their missionaries. And one of the things that they're going to trade to people like Nobunaga are guns. Primitive to a degree, but they're also going to be effective. And with guns, that will help Nobunaga to become the leader, the ruler of Japan. You got that? It's almost like cheating, though. You understand that? It reminds me of the scene, I don't know if you guys are into Indiana Jones, the very first one. He's in a square, like in northern Africa, and like this guy is going, oh, he's got some thing and some knife and thing, and Indiana Jones is like, wow, that guy looks ferocious. Takes out a 6-shooter, blows him away, that's it. I'm like, wow. There's not much honor in using guns, but nevertheless, they can be effective. And they will get the example of having a singular, strong ruler. This is going to be a good example for them that they'll look back on later on. If Japan is united, what can Japan do if they are united under one strong ruler? I mean, in the 20th century, is Japan going to take on a big country like the United States of America? They do, yeah. They bomb us at Pearl Harbor thinking, oh, there's no way the United States is going to... Oh, they did? Oh, yeah. Japan is going to be very ferocious when they're united. As it turns out, after this guy, Nobunaga, was able to achieve that power, a general killed him. Write it down. A general killed him. One of his generals killed him. And then that general's killed, so you don't need to know the name of the general who was killed. But the general who was killed by the forces of Toyotomi Hideyoshi. Okay? Toyotomi Hideyoshi, who will be then the next great leader of Japan. And he's going to take his newfound power and unity of Japan and try and conquer the continent. He sends over armies from Japan just across the water over into Korea, which was kind of part of like the Chinese influence. China didn't control it directly all the time, but they kind of took their lunch money, tribute on a regular basis. Toyotomi Hideyoshi, Japanese leader trying to take over Korea, will fail. Will fail. And ultimately, he will be gone too. A later ruler of Japan is going to look at all this craziness and all the things going on, and he's going to say, we need to change. We need to change. Enough of this foreign influence. Write this down. A later ruler is going to ban. Guess what he's going to ban? What is just like so anti-Japanese samurai martial spirit? Guns. He's going to ban guns. We don't need guns, right? If you lose in battle, you don't surrender. You take your own life, or you have your own life taken. Whoa, that's the samurai way. That's the Japanese way. The honor way. Okay? Let me go ahead and give you the rest of the notes. I've got a video to play for you here. The Japanese also, in addition to getting rid of the guns, will get rid of the Christian missionaries. They'd let them come in initially, but they're like, get the heck out of here. You're not Japanese, you look funny, you smell funny. Take your guns, take your Bibles, get out, get out, get out, get out. We're going to restore Japan for the Japanese. And as you can see, the last thing in there talks about a period of isolation from 1641 until 1853. So for almost 200 years, Japan will itself be isolated. So it's like putting itself on a quarantine for 200 years. Could you imagine like living in an area that was like on a quarantine for 200 years? They didn't trade with anybody. Oh, wait, except for 2 countries. Write this down. In only one port city at the island of Teshima, which is not too far from Nagasaki, in the southwestern part of Japan, they would trade with the Chinese. So the Chinese could come and trade, but they could only trade through that particular port. And they allowed one European country, not the Portuguese, not the Spanish, not the French, not the British. Who does that leave? The Dutch. Very good. The Dutch. The Dutch are going to be able to trade through that area. Okay? And they will, like I say, forbid, and they're going to forbid the Japanese themselves to go sailing out to other parts of the world. So we're going to limit, we're going to isolate. We're just going to be Japan, 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 Japan. We're going to learn things about Japan. They actually set up what is called the School of National Learning, where they're going to learn how great Japan is. Write it down. Japan is the greatest. It's the best. It's superior to Chinese. And that's going to be even really strong by the time you get to the late 1800s. I know we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit, but by the time you get to the late 1800s, they're looking around going, wow, China's being taken over by Europeans, and man, they're being drugs forced on them, and wow, China, we thought you used to be great, but really the only great place is Japan. The School of National Learning is going to be very much part of their identity. Teach it, know it, believe it. And yet, in 1853, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but in 1853, the isolation will be over. A country is going to show up on the shores of Tokyo saying, hey, we want to trade with you too. We're not Dutch, we're not Chinese, but we got big modern warships painted black. And I see you've got old-fashioned wooden things. I don't know what you've got going on there, but we're going to come back next year. If you don't agree to trade with us, then we're going to blow your ships out of the water. We're going to like, guess what country would be so intimidating to like force themselves as a trading partner on Japan in 1853. Who does that sound like? Who's pushy like that? Good, write that down. The United States, yeah. Okay, the United States. The Black Fleet of the United States. And Japan will waken up in 1853 and they'll look around going, woo, okay. We're going to need to modernize. And they're going to modernize very fast over the next 50 years. They'll build factories. They'll make a modern army. They'll be unified again. And they'll build a military that's going to be able to take on many, many countries, including the Chinese and the Russians, and they'll even tangle with the United States of America come 1941. Japan is going to come out of it, okay? But there's a lot of things going on in there. Got a little bit of a hint of it. I'm going to show you a trailer. Actually, just ran across this the other day. It's on Netflix. How many of you guys have watched the new Netflix series, Samurai, Age of Warriors, or something like that? Oh, yeah. Anyway, if you do, it's very bloody. And it pretty much depicts what things were like during the time, Age of Samurai, Battle for Japan. Tells the story of Nobunaga and Hideyoshi and many of the other great leaders of Japan during that time period. Ferocious, bloody, and yeah, here we go. Let's give you the trailer for it. A Netflix documentary.
Anarchy reigns as heavily armed warlords fight for power and territory.
There's your guns. Nobunaga has them.
In the Sengoku period, there were no rules. This was all-out battle for control of Japan. You had the men who were going to shape the destiny of Japan coming together. Oda Nobunaga, Toyotomi Hideyoshi, Masamune, and Tokugawa Ieyasu. No version is it?
Samurai combat is more brutal than anyone can imagine. These assassins, spies, and agents were not to be trifled with.
These are the greatest warriors history's ever known.
Now set in motion for the most decisive struggle for power in the whole of Japanese history. The real battle for Japan is about to begin.
Yeah, especially if you felt like I went a little bit too quick on that particular part and you're interested in Japanese history. How many of you guys are interested in Japanese history? Military history and so forth? Yeah, if you have Netflix, that's been on, I want to say like maybe a couple weeks or so. Very intense. Very bloody. Bloody, bloody, bloody. All right. That does it for our unit. Shall we review? Would you like a bit of an insight into what kinds of questions are going to be coming down on your desks come Thursday? And they all said yes. Yes. Okay, 35 questions. 25 matching, groups of 5, and 10 true-false. Okay? And this covers this unit that we have just finished, that we've been covering during the time period, pretty much since the beginning of the semester. Okay? All right. Becca, do you want to go first, or do you want to call on somebody else to go first? You can have all your notes out in front of you. Probably not a bad idea. Pretty much everything on that one sheet, front and back, is potentially going to be on the test, so that's always a good thing to have. Sometimes, actually, when we go through some of the questions, I can go, oh yeah, Native America, fifth bullet point down, or page 2, Sub-Saharan Africa, 3 bullet points down, or something like that. Okay? And of course, everyone listen to the question, and if you know what the answer is, you can put your hand up in case Becca doesn't get it right away. You want to go for it?
Not yet.
Or yes. Give me the name of the man who conquered Constantinople and established the Ottoman Turkish rule in Constantinople, changing it to Istanbul. Page 1. I want to say like 8 bullet points from the bottom, something like that. Yep, Sultan Mehmed II. Yep, very good. Okay. All right, who goes? Becca, who goes next? Marin, here's your question. Give me the name of the place in America. It was mythical. The Spanish explorers thought they might find it, and when they did, it would be full of gold. What was that place that inspired Spaniards to go into the interior of North America? And that would be, oh, it's actually the first bullet point in the entire packet. We got the wrong packet? Oh, okay. Well, other people can look at the packet because they can put their hand up as soon as you know it. You can put your hand up. We got hands over here. So you can call on somebody if you're not sure. El Dorado. Exactly, El Dorado. Very good. Okay, thank you. Mariner goes. Sophia, give me the name of these people who are of mixed heritage. In the Americas, although they don't have American, native indigenous American heritage, they have European heritage and African heritage. That's right, mulattoes, very good. Okay, who goes next? Okay, all right, Kyle, here's your question. Give me the name of the practice that was taking place among Hindus at the time and arrival of the Mughal Empire. And it was a practice, it was a burial practice. Actually, it wasn't so much burial practice, it was a practice of what happened when a Hindu man died and his wife was consumed in flames with his dead corpse. And the Mughals are like, seriously? We got to put an end to this. This doesn't seem right. We got a couple hands. Got a couple hands behind you if you're not sure. This would be on page Pashtun. No. Pashtun is going to be a rebellion. Page 2, third bullet point. Sati. Yes, Sati. Okay? Sati. All right, very good. Who goes next? Okay, all right. Here's your question, Vinny. Give me the name of... Oh, here we go. Give me the name of this concept. It happens sometimes when you mix religious and cultural beliefs. A lot of like Easter and Christmas practices are as a result of this kind of mix. And we saw it quite a bit in the Americas. We saw Africans brought over to the Americans, and there's going to be a bit of a mix there too. What is that concept where you mix things up a bit? I had that in there. Yes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Bullet points down. First one. That's it. Very good. Syncretism. Very good. Okay, Vinny goes. Okay, Reese, here's your question. Give me the name of this man. He was the original shogun. You just learned about him. You got to know this man. Got to know this man. Nobunaga. Very good. Okay. Yeah, you have brought honor to your family. If you do dishonor to your family, anybody know what they would do? If you dishonor to your family? It's called seppuku. It's like they would take out a knife and just like disembowel yourself with a sharp knife. Wow, that would be the only way to like redeem yourself. Yeah. Wow, pretty intense. Very good though. Go ahead, Reese. Who goes next? Okay. All right, here we go. Here's your question. Give me the name of this place. Dead people. Actually, one dead person in particular. She was much beloved by the Mughal ruler, and he had her buried in this location. It is one of the most amazing architectural features in all of India. It is not the Hagia Sophia. The Hagia Sophia is in continental / Istanbul, but this is a burial place. It is. What is? You can call on somebody if you're not sure. Taj Mahal. Yep, Taj Mahal. Okay. All right, who goes next? Blake? Okay. Give me the name of these group of people. They're not first generation Europeans, Portuguese, Spanish, living in the Americas, but they're like second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth generation. Sometimes they have some indigenous heritage, maybe from like one of the ancestor European men who took on a local bride from the indigenous population. Who are these people who nevertheless had a fair amount of wealth and money and property? What is this group of people? They're not the Peninsulares, but they're going to be very important in the history of Latin America. They're not they're like second, third, or fourth, or fifth generation from Europe. And they may have some native heritage, although it's not absolutely 100% clear sometimes. Exactly, the Creoles, exactly. Okay, who goes next? Okay, Keith. I want the name of this religion. This is a religion that Akbar tried to create to kind of bring people together. You got the Hindus, you got the Muslims, and they're like, can't we all come together and like follow one kind of composite Hindu-Muslim religion? Sikhism is not incorrect in the sense that that is kind of a composite one, but Akbar created a separate one, and it's got a separate name, not quite as popular as Sikhism ultimately. You're not going to find too many people following Akbar's version of the combined religion. And that would be on page 2. That's the one. Second bullet point, page 2. Okay, good. All right, Keith, it goes. Spencer, here's your question. Give the name of these people. They didn't do too well with all the moving of people here, there, and everywhere and so forth. These were people that were already living in the continents that the Europeans arrived, and many of them died from smallpox, measles, and other kinds of diseases brought over by the Europeans. So what would be either the continent, or you can name the people on the continent in general terms? The Spanish brought the diseases over, maybe intentionally, maybe not intentionally, but who are the ones that suffered primarily? And like 80, 90% of them died. It's not as hard as I'm perhaps conveying it to you. Native Americans, yeah, Native Americans. Okay, Spencer goes. Bella, give me the name of the man who was instrumental in getting the slave trade abolished. That's correct. Yeah. Okay. Who goes next? Jordan. The island of Java, in what is now known as Indonesia, the Dutch, some of them related to each other as siblings, grew what cash crop on the island of Java? Coffee, exactly. Very good. Okay, who goes next? Okay, Brielle. Give me the name of this man. He was Catholic. He lived in the Yucatan region, and he was not as much into cultural syncretism. He's like, all these Aztec and like Mayan religions and stuff, they got to go. I mean, we just need to do the pure Catholic way of doing things. Who is this guy who destroyed a lot of Mayan artifacts and texts and religious objects and became very, very reviled among Mayan people? Page 1, about 6 or 7 down. Raise your hand if you found that one. That was early on in the unit. You think you know? No. He ended up as a bishop. Brielle, do you want to get a couple hands up behind you? Nope, not the Marquis of Pombal. It's going to be one below that. Oh, we've got a bunch of hands over here now. Brielle, you want to call on somebody else? I didn't hear. Who? Ty. Yeah, the Bishop of Yucatan, Diego de Landa. Okay? Yep. Showed you that little video clip. Brielle, who goes next? Addie, here's your question. Give me the name of the region in South America where the Jesuits had established missions so that the local indigenous people could live and work and prosper. And then it all ended, and they were crushed, and they were burned and destroyed. And you guys watched the most saddest movie in your life, maybe. I don't know. Who knows? What was that region known as? You can give me the name of, there's a country there today. Got one hand up, 2. It's Paraguay. Paraguay. Okay. All right. Who goes next? People can go again. Reese. Okay, Reese. Give me the name of these people. Among the folks living in the Americas, they're at the top of the heap because they speak the Spanish or the Portuguese in the best way, and they're like fresh off the boat, and they've got all the latest fashion, and they may work for the Spanish or Portuguese government, and they look down their noses at the Creoles, even though the Creoles are actually doing quite well and have large estates and so forth. Peninsulares is right. Okay, good. Reese, who goes? Ty again? Okay, Ty, give me this one. Native American slaves. There's a special name for them. What are we going to call them? Early part of the unit. Like I want to say like the 4th bullet point. Hacienda's location, that would be the estate that they're working on. What are they going to be known as? I think it's actually in the same... Encomiendas, very good. Encomiendas. Okay, Ty goes. Blake, give me the name of this religion. It's an African religion that comes over to Haiti in the Caribbean and follows a lot of the African religious styles and beliefs. Vodun or Voodoo. Okay, Blake, who goes? Yaakov. Give me the name of this person. He was a tolerant man. He was a Mughal ruler, and he encouraged Hinduism and Islam. He even created his own new religion. He didn't burn down Hindu temples. And a lot of Hindus are like, yeah, fine, he'll work out fine. Which one? No, Mehmed is going to be an Ottoman Turk. So we're looking for a Mughal ruler. Akbar is right. Akbar. I believe we've gone through actually quite a bit. Okay. So wipe her down, and then we'll have the test for you when you come back in on Thursday. All right, very good. And if you have lost, I don't know if I got any extras. Oh dear. Google Classroom. Okay, look on Google Classroom, because I think I gave away the last extra one. So it's on there. Okay? Yeah, make sure you have your packet. Google Classroom if you've lost it. Oh, and I got to turn this off.